This is the best I'm doing in terms of Halloween stills. Fuck that.
Go home, Jack.
Even if you're not a fan of the show, we can all admit that The Simpsons has had a cultural impact, not only in animation, but in television itself. Although we can all admit that The Simpsons has been going a bit downhill over the last couple of years.
Well, Bart, how does it feel to be trolled, memed, jiffed, and dare I say, pwned?
Oh, you nasty ass bastard! You fucking nasty ass motherfucker! That's nasty, man!
However, something that really keeps me coming back to the show is The Simpsons' annual Halloween special, The Treehouse of Horror. Now running with 31 episodes, The Treehouse of Horror is an annual Halloween special. And today I'm going to be talking about what I consider to be one of, if not the best Treehouse of Horror episode, that being Treehouse of Horror 5. To me at least, I don't think that the Treehouse of Horror has really dipped in quality. In fact, I think with the latest episodes, the animation and I guess some of the writing has gone even better. But to me at least, I see Treehouse of Horror 5 being, in my opinion, the most memorable in terms of writing, animation, and just everything. And today, I'll be talking about why. So welcome to the beauty of Treehouse of Horror 5. The first segment of Treehouse of Horror 5 is The Shinning, which is an obvious reference towards the 1980s horror film The Shining. And while I haven't personally seen the movie myself, and if it's anything like this short, then it must be amazing. So in this segment, the Simpsons are employed as caretakers of Mr. Burns' haunted lodge while it's closed for winter. However, Burns cuts the cable television wire and confiscates beer, thinking that this will ensure the family's hard work. However, this backfires because the only two things that keeps Homer's sanity is his beer and television, and since both things are cut, it makes Homer go crazy. Suddenly a phantom mode informs Homer that he must kill his family to get a beer. Not packets of beer, not a giant bottle of beer, just one single beer. So after that, Marge finds a typewriter saying feeling fine, just to find out that after a lightning strike, the entire room glows up and the entire walls of the entire room have been written by saying no TV and no beer makes Homer crazy. And then the funniest thing in The Simpsons happens. Like, this is probably the funniest thing I have seen this franchise do.
No TV and no beer make Homer something something.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Stay away from me, Homer!
Give me the bat, Marge! Give me the bat! Give me the bat! Come on! Give me the bat! Give me the bat! Scaredy cat! Yeah!
Wow,
Baba Booey.
this nigga really think he's Bruce Lee. People be like, no, yeah. I like to cut you.
Hood classic.
So after that, Marge drags Homer down to the pantry, and he kinda gains some of his sanity back. But then Moe and a gang of ghouls drag him out of the pantry. So after that, while Marge and the children are enjoying their dinner, Homer begins chasing them with an axe. Bart using his powers to summon Willie. Sounds ridiculous, you just don't ask. Who abandons his portable TV in the snow to come rescue the family. Homer kills him by burying the axe in the back and continues pursuing his family. And when he's about to kill him, Lisa discovers Willie's abandoned television outside of the snow, which he gives to the insane Homer, and then he just sits down in the snow and watches TV. He invites his family to go sit and watch TV with him until they get frozen, until a news network comes out and Homer starts gaining some of his insanity back.
Hal Linden.
Homer, change channel.
Can't. Frozen.
Ah!
Urge to kill rising.
Overall, I think that The Shinning is an amazing segment that captures great laughs, chills, and an amazing parody that apes but still somehow captures a little of the spirit and atmosphere of the original source material. So yeah, I can definitely see why this episode is considered a fan favorite. So overall, I think that The Shinning is an amazing segment, and we're only getting started, so let's talk about the next segment, Time and Punishment. The next segment we have is probably one of the most memorable segments in the entire franchise, that being Time and Punishment. Homer breaks a toaster while getting his hand stuck in it twice. While trying to fix it, he accidentally turns it into a time machine, sending him back to prehistoric times, when he remembers Grandpa Simpson's advice to be careful not to change anything when he travels back in time. However, Homer fails to follow his advice and instead swaps a mosquito, sending him back to the future, and he isn't back home. Instead, he's in a dystopia where Ned Flanders rules the world. At first, nothing really seems bad, it's just Homer being grumpy at the fact that Ned Flanders is now ruling the world, until he figures out that he has to take his temporal lobe out in order to be happy. So he escapes that dimension, and instead goes back into prehistoric times once again, where he accidentally kills a fish, which leads him to another present where Bart and Lisa are absolutely giant and trying to crush him. So he goes back to prehistoric times and sneezes on a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which causes the dinosaur's extinction. And then he goes back to the present once again, and this time, the Simpsons are now extremely wealthy and are about to drive to Patty and Selma's funeral. Everything seems amazing so far, until Homer figures out that nobody really knows what donuts are. So he goes back to the prehistoric times, but before that, it starts raining donuts. But he didn't see it. In another realm, Grousebeaker Willie tries to help Homer, but gets struck in the back by an axe by Maggie. Yep, this is going to be a running gag through the entirety of the episode. On his next trip back, Homer smashes and crushes everything in sight, until he arrives in the present where everything appears to be normal, only to find out that his family is eating a meal like an amphibian tongue, which he decides in reality is, and I quote, close enough.
Hilarious and original! Hilarious and original! Hilarious and original!
Overall, this segment is great, with a lot of witty writing, great jokes, but especially the thing I love about it is how creative it is. With the writers having to work with dystopian futures and whatnot, they had a lot of ideas to work with. And the final product that we got was overall great, and it had a lot of personality within it. So, the only nitpick I can sort of see with this episode is that it is creative, but in a treehouse of horror, it isn't really that scary. But like, that's just the only nitpick I have. An overall great segment nonetheless. Nightmare Cafeteria is definitely one of my personal favorite segments of the entirety of Treehouse of Horror, but I won't be biased and just say it. While it is my favorite, I could definitely agree that it's the weakest segment of Treehouse of Horror 5, but that doesn't automatically make it bad. So let's talk about why I think Nightmare Cafeteria is such a great and unappreciated segment from Treehouse of Horror 5. So this segment centers around the school and having its two problems, that being that there's way too many children in detention, and the lunch meat has become grade F. So to resolve both of these problems, the teachers decide to become cannibals and literally eat the children in the detention room. I find this segment to be pretty creative with its concept, and the execution of it is also very interesting. What I mean by this is that the episode mainly focuses on its horror than it does its humor, and I think this is actually a very good decision on their part, because the horror in this episode is actually very disturbing. Because this is probably one of the most gory segments in the entirety of the Treehouse of Horror franchise. And the concept of them literally eating children just because their lunch meat is bad just seems so horrifying in the idea. But like I said, Nightmare Cafeteria is definitely not a flawless segment. and it definitely does have its problems. The first one being that it definitely doesn't have that much memorability. I mean, just because of the horror, that's pretty much the only reason why I see people mentioning this segment. Other than that, there really is no mention of this segment whatsoever. Then we have the other problem, that being that it mainly focuses on one aspect, that being the horror, while it leaves other aspects such as the humor kind of just left there. I mean, there are funny jokes in the episode, don't get me wrong, but like, the humor is almost non-existent in this episode. What I think of a great Treehouse of Horror episode is that it both handles the horror and the humor aspects very well. However, Nightmare Cafeteria mainly focuses on its horror than it does its humor. I think a perfect example of a great Treehouse of Horror segment is literally a segment from Treehouse of Horror 5, that being the Shinning. But with that being said, those are like the two biggest problems with Nightmare Cafeteria. Overall, I think Nightmare Cafeteria is an extremely gory and awesome segment from Treehouse of Horror 5. Definitely the weakest segment, but definitely not a bad way to end off such a great Treehouse of Horror episode. I can definitely see why so many people consider this one of their favorite episodes, not only in Treehouse of Horror, but on The Simpsons in general. It's an overall creepy yet fun streak of segments, and if you're looking for a fun Halloween episode from The Simpsons, then I highly recommend checking this one out. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Hell, why not share it with other people? Consider following me on Twitter and join my Discord server. Have a happy Halloween, everybody!